I can't help but notice that remakes are too much of a trend these days. Or if not a remake, it's a series that's been stretched and worn far past its intended lifespan. The creativity is clearly gone. Lightning in a bottle becomes the slight shock you get when you pull your clothes out the dryer. This is nothing new per se, but I remember it became too obvious to ignore when I saw a promotion for the movie Home Sweet Home Alone. But the title doesn't seem significant to you at first. Take away the words home sweet in the beginning. What are you left with? You're left with the Christmas classic with Macaulay Culkin that came out in 1990. They even did a sequel that came out in 1992. Then in 2021, 31 years later, studios felt the need to add yet another movie to the series for reasons. And by reasons, I mean money, of course. But it's not just Home Alone. I mean, really, how many wrong turn movies did they need to make before they realized everything after the first one was a wrong turn? How many more Halloween reboots is Jamie Lee Curtis going to do? I remember one of my favorite shows as a kid was That 70s Show. But for whatever reason, brighter minds decided that 90s show was necessary, even after that 80s show was canceled after 13 episodes. But even that isn't what prompted me to write this. About a month ago, I had Disney Plus for about 2 seconds so I could watch Daredevil Born Again. Great season, by the way. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. While I was looking through Disney Plus though, I couldn't help but notice how X-Men 97 was being advertised. And as the name suggests, it looks like it was made in the 90s. I quickly learned that it's a revival of the animated series that ended in, you guessed it, 1997. But just why? And while we're on the topic of comic book heroes, Marvel annoys me these days. I'm sure you can relate. My favorite superhero has always been Spider-Man. No shocker there. OG Peter Benjamin Parker, that's all I've ever really needed. I've been saying this for a while now, but I'm actually not a fan of Minority Spider-Man, aka Miles Morales. To me, he's basically the embodiment of another facet of this overall problem. Taking well-established characters, kind of change their race and gender, and we're just supposed to pretend it's interesting, when it's not. You could have just made new characters, could have just wrote a new story, and it might have been even more exciting. Now, to be fair, remakes have always been a thing. This isn't some unseen phenomenon. So perhaps I'm being hypercritical of today's time because I'm actually living through it. Perspective is everything after all, and I accept that. I do think remakes can have tremendous value, reigniting the original fans of older generations and engaging the youth in newer generations, which creates a bonding experience for all involved. For example, I remember watching Poltergeist, the remake that came out in 2015, and my family was reminiscing about how scary the original was that came out in around 1982, I believe. But having said all that, I'm still left thinking, where's the line between endearing and concerning? How many more forced sequels or remakes of well-established franchises do we need before we start to question if Hollywood's motives is to connect people together or maximize profit with already proven ideas and characters? I think there's a beauty in taking risks to craft new stories that can be told and inspire the youth that sees it. I get a sense that's happening less and less now, partly because it all comes back to money. Companies would rather have a guaranteed profit. Another argument might be the fact that it's becoming more and more expensive to produce movies and shows today. But I ask again, does that have to be the case? Because I like to think that if you make a great story, people will be more forgiving if the product isn't some visual masterpiece each and every time. Or maybe that's just me being too idealistic. In any case, I think it speaks volumes when a culture ceases to create new art but instead constantly recycles details that once made it great. I think it's a sign that the culture has become too stagnant, too decadent, too obsessed with what it was and not what it could be, too rigid and too stagnant at the top to maintain its relevance. It seems we don't dream big anymore, and I think it's a tragic thing. And I think it's time for new beginnings. Or maybe I'm just being dramatic. Until next time.